Hey there, Solo here, and today we're going to be talking about the future of Destiny. Now, in particular, I wanted to take some time and talk about some of the things that I want to see in the future of the franchise. Now, whether this be in the next rumored expansion for D2 or maybe in D3, wherever it is, I just feel like, in the time where there's a lull in the game. I know that there's been some people saying, hey, I'm going to take a break from the game. I feel like this is nothing to really worry about because, let's be honest, we've been here before multiple times, and each time Destiny or Bungie has came back full force, brought their community back together, back to play the game. This is nothing new. But I do feel like in this time where, some people are really thinking about, what they like about the game, is it enough for them to stay at this time? I don't think it hurts to explore, what are some of the things that we do like? What are some of the things that we missed that we had? And some of the things that we want to see in the future. So just getting right on into it, the first thing I want to see for the future of Destiny is better inventory management. Now, I believe everyone can agree with me on this, but right now I just feel like managing our inventory is a bit of a chore. Not saying that it should be super seamless and it should just be, an instant non-thought process. But I do feel like there are some things that maybe they didn't really think about, maybe from the start of D2 where they had some systems in places that they thought the community was going to like, and then we turned around and said, this is horrible. No, I don't want this anymore. We don't like this. So they were doing the best that they could, but also, it's hard to, think retroactively when you have to think ahead. So some of the things that I want to see in terms of better inventory management, I want to see an easier, deletion method. Why can't we select multiple items to delete? I feel like, every season, going through my vault and seeing, hey, I have all these blues or I have all these like pointless rolls. Why can't I select all of them and, mass delete them when I don't want it, And it's the same, essentially, why at level cap am I still getting blues? It should either, I remember in D1, they had it to where once you hit the level cap, you no longer got blues. You just got the materials from it. Like, especially from the engrams, it didn't give you any blues. You just got the materials, which I thought was amazing because, being honest, even if you are a new light player, are you really keeping your blues? Absolutely not. So once you get to purple where you get all legendary gear, there should be no more blues. That's it. End of the story. And so the next one, what I want to see in the future for Destiny has to deal with PvP maps and modes. Now, I won't get super in-depth into this because I am thinking about making a separate video about my thoughts about PvP in general. What I would like to see with PvP maps and modes, I'm not sure if it's just me or if everyone else has seen it, but it seems like the rotation of the map seems a little bit off. And by off, it feels like every day there is a set regimen of, here are the maps that are going to occur more frequently. Maybe you'll have an outlier of some random map out there, but here are the 3 or 4 maps that you're going to encounter a lot for the day. I don't like that. There are almost, I believe it's like 28 or so. There are several maps in Destiny 2 right now, that if they just have it in a constant rotation, it won't be so stale. And again, I did say I didn't want to go into it, but I feel like that is attributing to the fact where PvP just feels so right now, even though we did get Trials of Osiris back, which again, that is, I'm not going to touch on that because my sentiment is along with every other person, so we all know how Trials of Osiris is going. But just in terms of PvP, I feel like one of the setbacks is the fact that we're playing the same maps like all the time within a play session, and I feel like it changes daily. I just want to see a little bit more variety in that. And speaking of variety, I also want to see more modes. I know that there's a lot of modes in Destiny right now once you go through and you think about it, but in looking at the current modes that you have, it's like they have their base modes and then they just have like a more intense kind of version of the mode. So it's like you have Clash and you have more intense Clash. You have Control, you have more intense Control. What happened to Rift? What happened to, those other modes that started in D1 and then just went away? PvP should be fun just as, PvP had, or PvE has several variety, of activities. Why can't PvP? And not just those modes that went away in D1. What about some new modes, some modes I would like to see, like a no light mode, where you can't use your supers, you can't use your abilities, or, maybe like a primary only mode. And even if it's not something that you can implement into the general playlist, like, let us have options where we can, set up private matches and do that. Or, heck, your Bungie, make it so that, there's like a rotating playlist of, specialized modes. There's like so many different variety that you can bring into PvP. And I know that that is something that is stemming from the launch of D2, where it was just very seamless and like, oh, we're just gonna have a quick play and a competitive, and they started expanding. I just feel like we need more variety in PvP. Getting more into, like a little bit more of like the overall overarching, the point of Destiny. The third thing I want to see is aspirational content. And I know that, Luke Smith in his director cut said, that is something that they're missing. And, I know some of my, favorite streamers have been saying that is why they are going to be sunsetting weapons so that they can put in aspirational content. But I feel like, taking it a step from the old pinnacle weapons and, hey, having them do, a certain quest or a really lengthy quest to really show that they worked hard for that weapon. I want to see aspirational content in the same vein as Redrix's Claymore. And if you're unfamiliar with Redrix's Claymore, I believe it was season 8 or no, not season 8. It was like season 6. It was like way before. I'm unsure of the season. But it was just when, they were introducing like the Glory and the Valor system. And there was a weapon that you would get at 2100 glory points. And it was the Redrix's Claymore. And they advertise it as this is the only season that you can get it. If you do not get 2100 by this season, the weapon is gone. So you had several people who weren't really into PvP, trying to get it. Of course, you had the people who are doing carries, doing paid carries, and, doing account recoveries to help you get Redrix's Claymore. But from what I remember, and I do have to run the stats on this, PvP was really engaging for that because there was a time limit, there was a finish line, and you had to go and get there. Now, of course, Bungie kind of messed that up by saying, okay, yes, you can only get Redrix's Claymore in that season, but next season, we're coming out with Redrix's Broadsword, which is the same exact weapon, except it has a different name, and it just completely ruined the appeal of, here is a weapon that I worked hard for, I spent blood, sweat, and tears trying to get this weapon, and now everyone has it. My thing, especially with Destiny, is I feel like it's always been this, this one for all kind of loot pursuit, which is fair as a looter shooter game. But I feel like there's really nothing that will push someone more to challenge their ability, or challenge their thought of, I'm not good enough to get this weapon. No, what if you are? Yes, I understand there are some people out there that, oh, I'm not good at PvP. Well, try. There's nothing, but at this moment, there's nothing that's really pushing those people to even try. It's, okay, well, here's this really, let's take the mountaintop, for example. Hey, here's this really powerful grenade launcher. Yeah, you can get it now, or you can get it later. Um, yeah, it's always going to be in the game, and I mean, really, do you want to get it? Because everyone is using it now, and it'll probably get nerfed in the future. So why even get it? You know? I do understand that with those type of rewards and with the introduction of sunsetting, it's, well, what will be the purpose of us grinding for that weapon if they're going to sunset it? Well, you use it for the season. Like, make it a, if they do choose to stay with the seasonal model of, Destiny 2, which I feel like they probably won't, but who knows? I don't work at Bungie. But if they do choose to stay with the seasonal model, make that weapon relevant to that season, make it, this strong, I wouldn't say too overpowered weapon, but make it relevant to the season, make it where people actually want it, but then cap it at that season's like light. If the seasons are going to be increasing, by 40 light per season, make that a cap weapon, make it like a super pinnacle weapon, but you can infuse it. It's just going to be that light level, so that next season you have that one weapon that'll be kept at, that season's light level. But if you do choose to use the super powerful weapon, yeah, you can use it, but you're going to have to, take the con with the pro. I feel like with that still gives people that feeling like, oh, I got that weapon, I was still able to use that weapon. I can still use that weapon, or I can pursue the next weapon. And same for, those individuals where if they try to get it and they're like, oh, I really, really tried my hardest to get that weapon, I wasn't able to get it, but that's last season's. I'm going to take what I, learned from last season, and I'm going to apply for this season. I'm going to really work hard. I'm definitely going to make sure I get this weapon. It's something about achieving something that you're not going to, that you're never going to see again, that really makes people say, I need to make sure I get this weapon. And I feel like everyone can benefit from that. But that's just me. Moving on, and this starts to get more on the Bungie, really into like the Bungie side of things. Fourth, I want Bungie to be and start really honing in on being the forefront of information. And by that information, I mean the systems in the game. There is a lack of direction that Guardians are receiving from Bungie that they're getting from influencers. And I understand that in, the way that people interact with, media and, YouTube's a big influence, Twitch streamers and all that of the sort. I understand Bungie's kind of mentality of, well, yeah, we can explain it, or we can use our community and, have them pass on the information, which I feel like, yes, there's a limit to where, when it starts to get to particular damage values and everything, that can be something that the YouTubers can provide and say, well, which weapon's the strongest? What is the optimal build out? Like, those are the things that, yes, I understand. Bungie, don't worry about that. Let influencers, let the streamers, test out different builds and discover that as a community. But when you have new players hop into the game and they're like, I don't know what to do first, they should not be YouTubing what to do first in Destiny 2. Going into a streamer's stream and say, well, where should I start? That should be the developer saying, hey, here's what you should do. Here's an order of that. And not only just in that, but explaining the different mechanics. And I know that they started doing that with like the tips menu, when you're loading into a space and you have like the little tips in the corner. I feel like there needs to be more. And again, explaining like those different things and, really having that, okay, it's your first time. Let's have those big menus that pop up in the middle of your screen, like they do with, there's an event coming on. So I'm not sure if everyone else is getting it, but every time Trials is around, I get the big screen of Trials is back. And it shows like the different information about it. There needs to be more information about that with the season, with different weapons, different activities. Bungie needs to be providing that initial information. And then the final thing that I want for the future of Destiny, the thing that I want to see, is Bungie being consistent. And by consistent, I gotta tread a little. I gotta tread carefully. because I know in the past, and you know, if you go onto like the forums, if you go onto Reddit and you see different things and you read it, it can be kind of like a bit contradictory on like everybody's end. When I say consistency, I mean if Bungie strikes gold with a formula or with, you know, a thing. So like let's take last season's the at the end of the activity, the sundial, people are able to choose the rewards at the end. Everyone loved that. Take what you learned and hold on to it for the future. And I know that they did mention it before. It's like, okay, by the time they've already, you know, built that aspect, they have to think 20 steps ahead. It's not as if they're developing each season, you know, before it launches. But there should have been a return of that to a future season. And not even just that, because I know that there's going to be some people where it's like, well, then they're just recycling content. We don't want that. Yes, I understand that, but also if the community has praised it so much, and there's definitely a gap in between what you experience it, I feel like there's nothing wrong with going back to it and really exploring it. And like, okay, you guys really like this. We put like a different spin on it. We put different activities and everything. Because there's one thing about copying and pasting. Then there's another thing of taking similar mechanics and redeveloping around it. And I will admit, sometimes it feels like they're not even redeveloping much around it. It's just a copy paste, just substitute. And it's like, well, it's the same thing. It's just a little bit different. But also in that consistency, I feel like there are certain mechanics that they did in D1 that they did not bring over to D2, and I don't understand why. Prime example, Wrath of the Machine raid, where I believe you had like the Siva keys, where you can unlock a chest for like an extra pair of gear. One of the things was it wasn't really explained well, so I never took advantage of it. But from hearing other people talk about it, it was a way that you could get extra loot by making that Siva key. That's great. One of the complaints of the community was like, hey, I want to get more loot from the raid. I want to be able to do that. And instead of showering them with a whole bunch of loot, Bungie created this whole Siva key thing, and it was well received. Why didn't that mechanic or that principle translate over to D2? I'm confused. Same thing about what I mentioned before with the blues, you know, in D1. Once you hit a certain cap, you never got any more blues. It just auto-dismantled. Why wasn't that moved over to D2? I'm tired of dismantling blues. Bungie, I know even you're tired of dismantling blues. Blues are a mockery of winning a reward. It's just, you're just getting materials. Like, no one even thinks of them as blues anymore. They just think of them as glimmer. You don't even get legendary shards from them. You just get glimmer and gunsmith material. Just give me the material. So along with consistency of striking gold and being able to, you know, take that gold and, you know, putting it elsewhere, also, like, if the community is really happy or excited about something, let's bring that back. Let's make it an enjoyable experience instead of having people wonder, why didn't they bring this over? We really loved it. And I understand, you know, with the way that game development works, and, you know, it's like, yeah, we want to bring something new. We want to keep bringing things that are exciting. But it's okay if one thing stays the same. If there's one staple about, you know, what Bungie, you know, what Destiny is all about. You know, if it's that one thing, it's that we want to make sure that you are always rewarded with your raids. Here's an extra chest. It's not a Siva key. It's a Hive key. It's you know, it's a Minotaur Gate Lord key that you create, and you can unlock a different, you know, chest. Same idea. different kind of principle. Well, same principle, different idea around it. Everyone loves it. That's all that I have. And I know this is one of those longer videos, but again, I feel like in this lull, I'm not worried about the community, and I know that there's a lot of people reevaluating if they want to play throughout the entire season. I know some people are like, I'll leave it, I'll come back, but this is nothing new for Destiny. It's been 6 years of off and on, really being on and playing it, and then going off and on and off and on. So it's just a lull. I believe these are the times for reflection, and I have no doubts in my mind that Bungie is getting ready for the next expansion. I know there's been rumors out there, but we will just have to wait and see once we get more information. But let me know in the comments below if there's something that you want to see, in the future of Destiny, whether it be D2, D3, next season, next year. Sharing is caring, of course. But thank you all. I really appreciate everyone. Please make sure to go ahead and like. And if you like the content, go ahead and subscribe to see more content like this. Thank you again, and I will see you next time. Solo says, so long.